We're looking at you.
We're looking at you on the camera.
We're looking at you know.
Welcome guys in this new episode of Mosaic. I'm here with my guests all the way from America. We're actually doing an international call. I'm here with my guests Aaron and Aiden, founders of Vitals Agency. Now they run a very unique business which allows them to travel a lot and see their clients one-to-one to employ strategic solutions to their business. The crazy thing is that they're actually having this interview with me right now from a hotel while they're actually traveling for some work. They moved from an agency model, having a facility for themselves, to now being working remotely and traveling the world and having a handful of clients only, maybe 3 to 4 clients that allow them to have a huge diversity in their lifestyle. Aaron calls this EFL, easy, fun, and lucrative. So let's see what they've got to say. How you guys doing? It's good to have you guys on the show. I'm really psyched. So, let's get straight into it. Maybe starting with Aaron, just tell me a little bit about your backstory, how you got into design.
Oh man. Well, first of all, thanks for having us on. Really appreciate it. Happy you reached out. Love to do stuff like this. How did I get into design? It was really, I guess kind of by default. When I was in elementary school, we were asked as an entire class to design a logo for the entire class, like the graduating year. And there was a bunch of people that submitted ideas, and I had this fairly simple design, this simple idea that just came very natural to me. Like I didn't really put too much effort into it, but I'm like, this just makes sense and it looks right. And I submitted it and I won. And at that point, I knew that I had like this natural ability to communicate ideas and thoughts through design. And it took me many years to go back to that. But I did end up going back to this idea of, hey, maybe I should explore design as an actual career. And but that's essentially how I started, was just being creative, drawing. The first logo design was in Microsoft Paint, so not to date myself, but I'm 33 years old. I was born in '84. So yeah, I designed in Microsoft Paint as my first logo. So that's how I really got introduced into design. And then later on, it was just one of these things that kept coming up in my life where I was like drawn to creating things on the computer digitally and trying to convey messages graphically. And I'm just really good at it, so I can continue to pursue it, and the rest is kind of history.
Okay, awesome. So, where would you say is the tipping point in terms of you realized you wanted this to be part of your career?
Yeah, I think that that tipping point was when I had, so I graduated high school. I didn't go into college right away. I ended up getting into a lot of trouble. And I did some of this like kind of soul searching where like I did a bunch of jobs that were very unfulfilling. And I don't want to go too deep into the dark part of the story, but there was a dark part of my story. I came out of that, and then one of my mentors said, listen, Aaron, if you can get past this, you can pretty much do or create whatever you want in your life. If you can get past this one chapter. So what is it that you want to do and what is it that you want to create? And I thought about it and I'm like, well, I'm really passionate about design. I'm really passionate about art. And he enabled me to go to art school. I was renting a place from him, and he said, I want you to stop paying rent and I want you to go and pursue this passion. And because of him, it kind of gave me the nudge to take this really to the next level, to become more of a creative professional. And that was really the tipping point. And then from that came a lot of validation very quickly, where people would ask me, I designed my first business card and my first logo, and I would share that with people, and people would say, man, that's really awesome. Like, I want a business card like that. I want an identity like that. Can you help me? And again, I wasn't actively trying to promote this freelance business, but there was a demand in the market. I had a talent, and it was just, connecting the dots, really.
Wow. So I guess these things just, when you kind of put yourself out there, you start to attract, people eventually come knocking on your door, I guess. And I think this is what happens to most of us, just organic leads, I guess.
Absolutely, effortless.
But Aiden, tell me a little bit about your backstory, and where was the turning point for you?
Well, that's the $1 million question right there. So I'm an interesting creature because even as a small child, I've been like in. So yeah, he agrees. I'm an interesting creature.
He is a creature.
Clarifying just all that is me. As a kid, even I was evenly split between creative passions and pursuits and what seemed to be a very, very organizational, very disciplined mentality. So it was very strange. You don't usually find, at least I don't usually find, a lot of people that are musicians or creatives or artists that are also very super organized. But my mother's a CPA, my father is a mathematician, but they are both they met in the MIT orchestra, so they're both musicians and artists, and both of them have this split right down the middle of creative trade and organizational and business mind. And I didn't really know that as a kid, and I was always kind of tortured by, in this world, and one of the reasons I was so drawn to entrepreneurship is it didn't seem like the pathway that school was providing and that the teachers and my parents were even prescribing was go to school, pick something. In high school and freshman year, I'm already being told, pick the thing that you're going to do for the rest of your life. And I just couldn't swallow that, right? So I found myself in high school passionate about sciences, passionate about business. I was passionate about history. And then I found a film class, right? So to your original question, am I a designer? I'm actually not a classically trained designer per se, but I'm a classically trained video editor and video producer. So, and specifically speaking from the video edit perspective, I found in editorial work kind of the culmination of the most beautiful, creative, and organized path. I don't know if you've ever edited video or edited video of somebody that doesn't know how to shoot video, for example, but it's an incredibly disorganized situation, and the video editor, it gets to see what happens and how distracting and how difficult it is to put together something that wasn't thought through. So therein began my obsession with intention and kind of reflection, right? Spending time in pre-production planning, then doing all the creative work, shooting beautiful video, and then cutting from a very organized workflow, and then creating beauty on the back end as well. So that's kind of the creation and the flowering of me. But then I met this kid, man. We've been telling this story 1,000 times in the last 2 days.
This is the third time.
Right.
Actually. Yeah.
But I was operations director. Again, very organized mindset. I was finding myself drawn to organizational or operations roles and companies working for people. And Aaron came in to do the business cards for my company. And he was designing everybody, all the directors' cards, and he comes to me, and I'm like, if I can get you to design me something a little bit special, that'd be wonderful. And Aaron's like, thank God somebody wants something a little bit creative, right? So we had fun. We designed some wacky cards, some clear plastic credit card transparent things, and that's how we met. And you'll probably get into this a little later, so I'll save it for you. But that was the beginning of this wonderful relationship.
Yeah, very, very long professional relationship and friendships.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But that's me. I answered that question in about as long a way as possible.
No, that's perfect. You covered everything I wanted to ask, in fact.
All right, I gotta go then.
Yeah.
Number one, I love the partnership. I think that's brilliant. The fact that you're friends. Something that stood out to me is the fact that your names sound quite similar, Aiden and Aaron. There's some kind of, it just seems like there's some kind of universal connection there. My cats are going really crazy at the moment.
I got two myself, man. Take care of business.
Let me just get rid of them because they're really, really distracting. They're running around and
They're like, what are you doing awake right now?
They're like, this is our time that we go crazy.
This is our nocturnal time.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, cats are super nocturnal, so this is their playtime. Okay, she's chilled out a bit more now. Cool.
All good, all good.
Getting back to it, it seems like you're a lot more multidisciplinary, if I'm not mistaken, because I just think if you're someone that works in video, someone that works in motion graphics or anything within that space, becoming multidisciplinary is a byproduct of that. Would you guys agree? Would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we definitely have some similar skill sets that overlap, but we're also very different, which is what makes this partnership work. There's actually a third partner that we have as well in New York. His name's Mauricio. He's not here on this trip with us, but and he is another dynamic, another layer to what I believe is this like trifecta that's made our current business more successful than any other ventures that we've
each
created before.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting thing because you're totally right in that whole. And especially, I think marketing and agency work in general demands that multidisciplinary skill set, right? But just like most people, unless you're Leonardo da Vinci, you're a master in maybe a handful, but maybe not everything. Now, I do believe you can be a master in more than one, but for me, being a master of product management, being a master of video editorial, motion graphics, and copywriting, I'm a fantastic writer, if I do say so myself. But
humble too.
Right? Yeah.
He's humble.
And then Aaron, web development, graphic design, branding, sales. This guy can close. He can sell the devil fire.
Photography. I do video.
Photography.
Yo-yo.
Mm-hmm. So we've got a chunk of skills that do.
You guys are excellent at selling yourselves, by the way.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But to your point, there's like a Venn diagram, right? That we mesh in the middle. We've got our unique skill sets, and then Mo comes in. We'll toot his horn a little bit, but he's the. Neither of us really have a lot of that back end super technical development. That's what he brings to the equation, mitigating our lack of that. Mm-hmm.
It seems to me like you guys have core skills,
but a lot of your skills naturally just overlap, right? And that I think creates a really beautiful partnership because you can both see the ends of each other's work and yourselves as well. So you can get a lot of, I guess there's a lot of constructive feedback and a lot of help in each other's areas. So love it, I love the partnership. Seems like you guys have a long backstory. Maybe just touch on a little bit about how you guys came together as a business.
Yeah, so I mean, between Aiden and I, we met in the office that the story that he just mentioned, and then my agency continued to grow. I had brought on a couple other partners, and Aiden ended up coming and working with us. He was a project manager. He pretty much kind of ran the ship there, and I had created a business essentially that was very unfulfilling. We were scaling out at a rate that was depressing. It was profitable, but it was depressing.
Huge overhead.
Massive overhead. 30 employees, 10,000 square foot facility. It was
beautiful facility.
It was a great facility, and we spent a lot of money building it out, which is a huge mistake. Don't do that. I just don't recommend it if you're trying to create something like what we have now. So that was one thing, and then I ended up. My wife and I got pregnant. We were having a kid. I just realized that this wasn't truly fulfilling the values that I had for myself in my own life. And I ended up exiting that business. I sold my equity. And Aiden had started his own company shortly after. He was then contracting me. I was then so we were like, both had our own businesses, and we're like subbing each other out. And then what actually solidified our new agency was Mauricio, who I had met online. He had contracted me to go out to New York and shoot some video. And he said, Aaron, while you're out here, how would you feel about hosting a branding workshop? Because I had this branding product for digital entrepreneurs. It's a digital product. And I said, I'd love to do this live. And he said, I'll do everything, and we'll split the profits. And I ended up flying Aiden out to be a part of that.
Just to shoot it, yeah. Uh-huh.
And one thing kind of led to another. And this workshop that we hosted in New York ended up being a pretty big success, and it was enough for us to say, you know what, let's join forces. Let's bring all three of our talents together. We had many conversations between that and kind of the manifestation of starting our company. But that was kind of the nail in the coffin. We're like, let's make this a business, and we value each other's expertise enough to like say, yeah, let's form a partnership and do this right and do it big. And we haven't looked back. Like honestly, we've been doing it right and big. Our definitions of right may vary from time to time, but ultimately I think it works so well because there's three of us and we all kind of manage each other's weaknesses. It's just worked out great. I mean, it's kind of like surreal. I wouldn't say how easy it is because it's not easy, but how maybe effortless. Like the pieces just fell into place perfectly. And I mean, it's just, I mean, you should, if you only knew the conversations that we've been having all day, like it's kind of beyond belief where we're at today in comparison to where we were, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And, is there anything you want to add to that?
Well, just the interesting little thing was that
it's almost like you guys can squeeze out a tear.
Well, so it's been tough, and there's definitely been a lot of hard work and some sweat, but literally, it's when Aaron says surreal, I mean, we are pinching ourselves still, trying to make sure that this isn't like a dream. Yeah. And the funny thing is, and more than anything, is that I can speak for myself, but the freelancer, the business that I had run in the past, there was never really a hell of a lot of planning. There was never these massive goals that I set for myself. I made do, and I was successful, just kind of moving along. But we were confronted with a situation where we had to make a plan. We absolutely had to make a strategy and a plan, and we had to break down a huge goal to make it manageable and bite-sized. And even the bite-sized pieces looked ridiculous and daunting. And what's really surreal, I think, more than anything, is that it just took that small goal to get all the way through. And it was just a great experience. So we're here now.
So you guys have been through the struggles together, so you understand each other from that perspective. Just to take a step back a little bit, you mentioned high overheads. You brought this amazing facility together, and you started a agency with a bunch of staff, a creative director, all this. I mean, that's the creative dream, right? To have this agency environment, a facility, and this creative environment, and working in and running this business. Yet there's a negative undertone, and it seems like there's a negative undertone coming from that experience, and it just seems like it wasn't the dream that you hoped of building. Just talk to us a little bit about why that was.
Yeah, I mean, and so it is, so to answer your question specifically, I think that at first when I sought out to create a business, I was looking at profit, size, employees, a lot of the external factors of what that entails. And the truth was that because we had such a massive overhead and so many people, to meet our financial goals and to maintain the business, we had to onboard hundreds of clients. And we literally had about 450, a little over 450 clients in our portfolio. But the ticket sizes were on average, 2,500, maybe 5,000 max. So we had tons of clients. And with tons of clients that are at this small level of engagement, you have tons of support and hand-holding. In fact, the cheaper a client is willing to pay, the more pain in the ass they are. So there's a pain in the ass to profit factor, right?
Almost invariably. It just works that way, yeah.
So we just had become slaves to our computer. I mean, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd have 100 emails in my inbox. I was working 80 hours a week. Also, I wouldn't even say that what I had built was a business. It was more of a practice because the entire business couldn't operate without me to some degree. I couldn't step away for an extended amount of time and everything still worked. And that was something that I just lost excitement over all the emails, working 80 hours a week. Like, I'm all about hustle, don't get me wrong, but when you don't see any light at the end of the tunnel and you're looking at overhead every single week come in, it's just not very rewarding. And I do believe what you mentioned, it is every creative's dream to build a company and have an office and have all this stuff. And it was mine until I started traveling around the world helping people solve big problems. I became a problem solver rather than an order taker. And once that transition happened, we're not looking backwards. We're not looking at building the big office and having all the employees and all the overhead and being anchored down. Now we're looking at more global initiatives. And I think that that's what's way more exciting than any, brick and mortar office. Offices come and go. I've had dozens of offices and they're not fulfilling. In fact, I have an office right now in Phoenix that is really cool. Like we've got studios and sound booths and all this stuff. And I still work at a coffee shop 2 days a week because I like being out. I like being in front of people. I want to be outside. And if you're a creative like me, like the last thing you want to do is be confined to a specific area for an extended amount of time. It's like, let me free, And so, yeah, we made some pretty big shifts, and the big shifts came from some heartache that we discovered through having this monster of a company, which literally I describe as a monster because it was eating away at our souls, and it just wasn't fulfilling.
Yeah.
Sounds like a factory environment where designs are coming in and being pushed out almost, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
It was a numbering system. It was, and
Burn
it was
and churn.
And honestly, the level of creativity was very low. The level of passion and desire for the projects was very low because there's so many, and they weren't even really that cool projects, to be honest. We would just take anything we could in hopes that we could get as much from them as possible, and it just wasn't very fulfilling.
Well, and one of the really interesting things, and I see so many people in the world just get sucked into this trap, creative people as well as just kind of everybody else. But it is really easy, and I don't fault you for this, Omar, but it's really easy to look at a situation from the third party and say, like, it looks like you built your dream. And the truth is, yes, like, that was the case. And even me just being a project manager there, that was the first time I'd worked in an agency. I was surrounded by creative people. Everybody was sexy and cool and dressed snazzily.
It was fun.
It was fun.
It was fun.
And don't get me wrong there, but the reality is like, it wasn't my dream. It was somebody else's dream that I thought was cool. And when I was living it, and as I'd lived it for long enough, I realized that this has nothing to do with my dreams, my goals, and I had never even thought to think about what those were for me. I swallowed this image, bait and tackle, and I lived in it for far too long, and so Aaron disappeared and immediately actually got into some stuff that was fulfilling for him. But I had to spin around a little bit, man. I went back to school for a minute. I worked for a photographer, a world-renowned automotive photographer, for a while, and that was pretty exciting. But it took me a little while to really get intentional about, like, what the hell I even wanted, and reverse engineering my business and this business now from a place of what I wanted my life to look like and building the business around that, rather than building a business that provided money that theoretically could have made me do whatever I wanted with my life after I turned 65. But, it's like, if I can have the life I want now and potentially work a business around it, why don't I try that first, at least? Even if I fail, I just need to be able to have tried that before I swallow a day job again. You know what I mean?
You know what, guys? You hit it on the nail. I mean, a lot of people in my close circle and potentially my audience really needs to hear this. And we don't need to have all of these high overheads. We're just doing ourselves a disfavor. This is how I run my business as well. I don't have a facility or such. Or I don't rent out an office space. Believe it or not, my wife is my project manager.
Yeah.
That's good. I don't even know how you could. My hat's off to you, man.
So, I mean, yeah, it really, really works, and we're highly lucrative at the moment. I mean, we've got clients coming in, and we don't have to work with as many clients as if we were to actually have an office space, we'd have to cover those costs. So it's brilliant, and we're really loving it from that perspective. A lot of our team and designers are outsourced as well, so yeah, it's awesome. And this is a message I really want, I think, our audience and a lot of people within my circle to hear, because there has been a lot of issues or incidents within London itself where you find a lot of agencies having to downscale or even be made redundant, which is really a shame, because I've seen some agencies with amazing portfolio but have had to be forced into scaling down or even being made redundant. So it's sad, but this is it, guys. Like, this is what I want our audience to hear. The story from you guys. You guys have done it. You've gone out there and made this lifestyle business and you're highly lucrative and you've onboarded only about a few clients. It seems to me like there needs to be an evolution that needs to take place, and you guys have already undergone that evolution.